Good to see everyone.
Likewise.
Great to be here and delighted with the rest of the team.
I think we're live. So Mazi, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a talk, Vision 2030 Municipal Panel International. I'm Nazia, your host for today's session. So over the next 90 minutes, we'll be hearing insights from four of our very outstanding voices driving economic transformation in the kingdom across policy, investment, innovation, entrepreneurship. So let me just quickly introduce our speakers to you all before we start with the session. We have with us Mr. Fuad Passioni, an expert in economic cities, PPPs, government investment frameworks. We have Mr. Ahmed Orsalan, a seasoned investor and strategy advisor at the intersection of food security, private equity, and capital markets. We have with us
Mazia, I think your voice is not clear for me. I assume it's also for the rest.
I'm
Is that
sorry, can
right?
everybody else hear me properly?
Now it's better.
All right, continue. We have Mr. Marsden with us as well. He is a startup advisor, angel investor, working across Saudi's innovation landscape. And then lastly, we have Mr. Taha Maimun with us as well. He is the CEO of Founders Club International and a driving force of global founder engagement with Saudi Arabia. So we're going to continue with this session. We're going to make it a dynamic roundtable conversation with a lot of discussions and insights. And before we move on to just questions and the rounds, I'd like to give space to all the speakers for 30 seconds each to introduce themselves and welcome themselves here. Starting with Mr. Fawad, you can go ahead.
Hi, everyone. A pleasure being part of this extraordinary panel and hoping that we could have the discussion move into alignment and enlightening everyone about the vision of 2030 and the outcomes that we created so far.
Thank you, Mr. Fawad. Mr. Ahmed, would you like to go next?
Yes, thank you for including us in your busy schedules. And I'm delighted amongst the esteemed guests to be here on an active talk. Um, Vision 2030 is an astonishing thing that's happening, transforming Saudi Arabia to where it's at and where it's going. And in light of, uh, of you know, uh, the economy and where it's achieved, whether it's on ease of doing business or foreign direct investments, or being ranked among the top innovation hubs globally. I think when it's dark enough, you can see the stars.
Thank you, Mr. Mazen. Mr. Ahmed, Mr. Mazen, would you like to go next?
Again, very happy and proud to be with you, and thank you for FCI. It's not first time to be with FCI, and I think what you are doing is great. And we all proud of being with our global colleagues and friends to share more about our country, to give more, let's say, facts about the local landscape and how we can help them in case they have any question or they need any more information.
Thank you. Taha, Mr. Taha, would you like to please go next?
Sure. Thanks for this lovely panel for joining and sharing, sharing their knowledge to people from all over the world. Um, Once again, I have some friends on this call, and I think some of you I have not met yet. But it's always a pleasure talking about the vision and everything that's happening. And I think we have such an extraordinary panel today. So I'm excited to share my knowledge and also learn from them, like I always am.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And I'm sure this is going to be a lovely conversation. So let's jump right in. Setting the stage, Mr. Fawad, I'd like to start with you. You've been deeply involved with Saudi's economic zones and investment frameworks. So, what mechanisms are being put in place to ensure that these zones aren't just attracting capital but also retaining and localizing long-term value?
I think it's a bit of a heavy question, so I want to take it within the conversation. It carries so much details, and the KPIs of the vision are plenty. We're talking over 100 KPIs across different industries. So I want to start the conversation by saying our economy is reshaping itself. It started 9 years ago when the Vision 2030 started. Um, we actually met our vision targets 6 years earlier than expected. And it's not a coincidence. It's actually a result of deliberate reforms, streamlined regulations, and we boosted capital markets and diversified through industries like tourism, logistics, and tech, and fintech, and different industries also.
Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Pratt. Yes, we will definitely continue the conversation and dive deeper into the mechanisms and the details. Building on that, Mr. Mazen, I would like to ask from your point of view, especially since you've worked so closely with founders and startups, what kind of innovations or business models do you think are truly gaining traction in Saudi today?
Your question is not clear. Can you repeat that?
Yes, sure. I would repeat that. I'd like to know what kind of innovations and business models are truly gaining traction in Saudi today.
Yes. Okay. See, in general, my experience. Maybe this will add to the discussion. My experience is between being part of global company as SAP and Cisco, and also being part of government companies, where I was part of delivering and business development for BIF and Elm companies. And at the end of my experience, or last 5 years, I been part of venture builder where I participate in multiple ventures. Therefore, maybe it will help to share part of my experience and exposure to ventures that I worked with, or at least being part of the advisory. I think the Saudi market today, with the nature of young talents and even young people, is very open for innovation and new business models. Therefore, any new venture that try to invent or come up with a new business model, normally they will struggle with the adoption and the readiness of those early adopters. In Saudi, because of the nature and the geographical and the young population, they are very open to adopt these business models. Therefore, this is one key point in Saudi versus any other, for example, Europe or even US. But this is key point when it comes to consider your ventures. Therefore, I think Saudi is very welcoming, and Saudi users welcoming new business models. Therefore, myself, I've been working in B2B last 10 to 15 years. I found even corporates, luckily, also open for this new business models. Therefore, today, all of us is seeing in Saudi how pay now, pay later ventures is booming. Again, this is something new, and within maybe 5, 6 years now, there are huge adoption of such new fintech products. It's also the same for e-commerce and marketplaces, which is my area. Again, people willing to discover new business model and also try new things. Therefore, I suggest or always propose considering an innovative business model when it comes to Saudi market. Don't come up with traditional or try to go to the red ocean. This is maybe a general answer. I hope I answer your question. And we can maybe at the end answer any specific question they say.
Sure. Thank you so much for answering that. I think we totally agree with you. There's a lot of sectors, a lot of businesses that are happening right now. Building on that, Mr. Ahmed, I'd like to ask you, Tanmia has come to represent more than just a poetry brand. It's seen as a part of Saudi's food security and strategy now. So how do
I
you
think I think Mazia, you have to speak slower because your voice is it
And come
goes in
closer
and
to the
out.
mic.
Yeah, so you have to come closer to the mic and speak slower. Otherwise, we struggle to hear your question.
Sorry. Am I audible to everybody now?
Keep going.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Ahmed, I would like to ask you, Tanmia has come to represent more than just a poultry brand. It's seen as a part of Saudi's food security strategy now. So how do you see the food sector contributing to economic resilience and even regional influence, in your opinion?
Well, thank you for that question, and I want to speak on behalf of I think the avalanche of many family businesses as well as new ventures that have been streamlining in the kingdom. Um, Saudi stock market uh, is one of the top 10 stock markets in the world, and it's primarily led by private sector companies that are listed within. And I think the key turnaround that has happened on that dimension is with Vision 2030, um, the confidence in the Saudi market and the overall economy has really stimulated a lot of the family businesses and old heritage businesses to take a leap step and to start making moves towards being publicly listed. I think this is visible, and that's one of the areas I think most of our foreign investors would like to hear about. Um, it's in almost every sector, so it's not just the food sector, but Saudi Arabia has identified cross sectors KPIs, like Dr. Fuad mentioned, and we've witnessed a boom across every single sector. In fact, we've identified and we've started working into new sectors that were not necessarily part of the old asset class. And within my group of Glow Ventures Investment Holdings, we are looking at today's economy, and also with a forward look with the new asset classes that will help disrupt existing historic sectors. And I'll speak of five, which are our main focus. One being green innovation. Saudi is an industrial hub, but there's a lot of transformation on manufacturing using new technology, reducing the carbon footprint, and developing new technologies. And in that space, we are working and introducing things like biofuel manufacturing for the first time in Saudi, biomedical, and new other manufacturing innovative products within that space. This year happens to be our main focus on mobility. We believe transformation happens through transformation. Transformation happens through transformation, transportation, and mobility is one of our key focus areas this year. We're in discussions on transactions close to 500 million US dollars in the field of disruptive eVTOLs, autonomous buses, hybrid trucks, and other technologies that we're introducing, which will help the vision towards the upcoming major events, whether it's the Expo 2030. And congratulations to Saudi Arabia. Today we have received the flag for the Expo 2030. I think this is a major milestone. And upcoming events prior to Expo and post Expo, including the World Cup. Riyadh is becoming a very busy city, and interconnectivity and solving different transportation solutions is one of the key disruptive areas that my company is involved in. And I think everyone else from a private sector, we're launching the first mobility fund in Saudi Arabia. And Passing on to other areas, we're also involved in the real estate landmark real estate development. We have a very unique project that we're working on, which will also disrupt the real estate space, and it will connect it with other sectors like tourism, entertainment. So not the typical standard real estate development that has been in the past, but from here on, going to follow also the direction of Saudi Arabia's economic and iconic real estate development. Last but not least is the AI, the semiconductor space, and the technology space. I think Saudi has launched the company Humane, and more so, other companies are looking at Saudi as an innovation hub, and we are actively engaged in discussions with the rest of the globe on how can we um, bring new innovations and new projects to Saudi Arabia with intellectual property, reach critical mass, possibly even take them public and launch them to the world. So from Saudi to the world, I think is the new direction, and this is as per His Royal Highness MBS's wise leadership. His quote is, "We don't want to repeat the same projects. We want to bring something new to the world." And we've taken this vision upon ourselves, and we're trying to contribute to this great vision, and among all other visions within Saudi Arabia. So, and last but not least, I just would like to summarize the time and timing is I can't think of a better time. And for those folks who are looking at the Middle East, Saudi Arabia definitely stands out. And I don't want to discount what once Michael Dell said, "Give me people, I'll give you my next invention." And I can't speak enough about the Saudi youth. I think we have some great caliber in Saudi Arabia, with no question asked. And I think if any company looking at relocating to Saudi Arabia, we have a population that is 70% below the age of 30. And not only it's a number, but it's also a fact that we have both, females and males who are very well qualified, very well educated, that can take on jobs, and they have taken on jobs, and they've contributed to the national GDP. And I think this will continue. So we are not lacking anything, but time and timing is, I think, is what we need to work against, and be able to deliver beyond expectations. I think is everyone's agenda in the kingdom.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Mr. Ahmed. I think that was incredible. We're all very excited and looking forward to all the developments taking place in Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's definitely leading the charge in not just one industry or sector, but overall. You talked about Saudi investment, the confidence in Saudi market. So over here we have Taha with us, who is a US-based founder and founder Stub International, has expanded to Saudi Arabia. So Taha, I want to ask you, what really drew you to make Saudi a key focus for Founders Club International? What made it feel so inevitable?
So, thanks for that question, Mazia. So, I think for us, really, when we look at emerging markets, right, and we look at the GCC, for us, Saudi is very unique, and I think the timing was very important. Like anything in life, if it's not the right time, nothing will work, no matter what you do. And specifically when it comes to investments, when it comes to scale ups, when it comes to startups, the timing for the business model has to be right. So um, we, 7 years ago, when we heard about and studied the vision under His Royal Highness, we realized that there was a lot of potential that was in the region, specifically the boom that was happening. But we had to spend a lot of time to understand what the market had to offer, what the different sectors had to offer, and no matter how many times you read the vision, you have to visit yourself and experience the change. You have to talk to the right um, individuals from government to public to private sector to really see what's happening and then understand why there's an importance of timing, and hence the reason why our firm has taken a hyper focus into building the bridge between North America and the GCC, specifically Saudi. It's because we understand that in the next 6 years, every market it's going to be in some way it's going to get saturated. The partnerships will be formed. The so right now there's you have another 5, 7, 8 years for, I would say, for market entry, where you can genuinely um, get involved in some of the, I would say, the huge changes that you can never see in your lifetime. So it's like the 90s boom when you look at, if you study what happened, in the valley in the 90s, the Amazons and the Apples. So I think that's really what the stage is in Saudi. And specifically, it has to be, the people need to want it. So the youth is, they have a 70% young population, and all of that is, it comes into play. At the end of the day, if the people don't want the change, it won't happen. And everyone in Saudi is open for partnership, is open for change, and everyone is highly educated, and they understand like what works and what doesn't work. So I think it, from a standpoint of entrepreneurs and innovators and investors, I always say this is the time. And but it doesn't require a Zoom call or two Zoom calls. It requires for you to physically be present, spend time, get to know people, and then really take it from there. So it's not like, you can sit in California and make a few Zoom calls and and people will trust you. You have to physically put in the time and effort, and people like working with people. They like their company, and at the core, we're all human beings, and Saudi hospitality is the best in the world. Um, and the most unique thing is that at the end of the day, I talk about this, that you can be a very large company, but if your company culture and if the founder doesn't understand how to do business in the region, that company will might not make it. The company that's small to medium sized, that understands the region, that's looking for the right partnerships, they sometimes do better than the really, really big, massive companies. And that's why it's a unique opportunity for, not only the big names, and I'm not going to name any, but there's a huge opportunity for the small to medium sized enterprise coming in as well. So yeah, I'm excited to again be on this panel, and I hope that answers your question.
Definitely. Thank you, Taha, for sharing all of that information. I'm sure there are a lot of founders from across the globe watching us who are looking to tap into the Saudi market. So this is very insightful, definitely. Talking about investors, business founders who are looking to tap into markets, let's talk about investment infrastructure. So coming back to Mr. Fawad, I'd like to ask you, what role are sovereign wealth vehicles like the PIF playing to really anchor private sector confidence, especially in like emerging or high risk sectors in Saudi Arabia?
Actually, a pretty excellent question. It brings me to the point of the discussion next that I would like to highlight. That prior to Vision 2030, Saudi Arabia was dependent on oil. And Vision 2030 came to actually diversify the economy and move Saudi Arabia from an oil based economy. So today, I have a few numbers I can share that will give you that blur of investment and how did Saudi Arabia shift from different sectors. So today's private sector shares around 47% of the GDP. Last year reported in 2024. I'm sure this year is going to exceed that amount. For non-oil GDP growth, it's around 3.9%. So it's strong non-oil exertions. Unemployment in Saudi has reduced significantly to 7% in the last quarter of 2024. So For your investment question, the FDI was around 96 billion Saudi riyals in 2024. Actually, signaling growing confidence for prospective in FDI and exceeding the targets that were set by the country. And that was also work from government sectors such as PIF or private funds or investors, or actually also SMEs being in the picture. I think one of the greatest examples that we have in Vision 2030, or it's always been highlighted by Crown Prince, is entrepreneurship. So coming back to my point and helping startups and helping founders that want to come from abroad into Saudi, and creating an entrepreneurship license that will give them a lenient entry into the Saudi market for a couple of years and testing their products and their innovation, and also for Saudi products to not only create an impact locally but also to go to the globe and be part of the global economy. So, in startup terms, we found our product market fit and for our economy, and we're moving forward towards that. Um, um, Lastly but not least, last year we welcomed over around 100 million visitors to Saudi Arabia into sectors like tourism, smashing the 11 million target that we had. So our target for 2030 was around 11 million, and we actually exceeded that amount now to 100 million visitors last year. A couple of also numbers. We have around volunteers that started committing to helping in ensuring that the Vision 2030 is in line, around 1 million people, actually 1.2 million to be exact, helping and volunteering towards such programs and such initiatives to be in coming to light. And one of the numbers that Mr. Ahmed also touched base on, women in workforce. So it's actually 33% versus the target that was also only 30%. So as I said earlier, we actually exceeded 6 years before our targets. So we treated our country like an ultimate startup incubator by purpose and policy. We've empowered SMEs and innovators. Lastly, the National Entrepreneurship Committee reported that small and business companies contributed a much larger share in our economy, in our GDP. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Fahd, for sharing all that. I think one more point I'd like to add, that it's not just capital. I think with Saudi Arabia, it's a lot of confidence, the willingness to take the risk, the willingness to work in partnerships, and strategic alignment as well. That is all combining to develop and make what it's actually making in Saudi Arabia right now. So,
I think
Mr.
also Dr. Fawad also said something very unique. He said they ran it like a startup, right? And I think that's that in itself, it defines this, the it defines everything. So I really liked how you kind of put that in a one liner. So
We should.
I think that says a lot. So
Thank you.
Sorry about that. So, Mr. Ahmed, coming to you now. So, since you have been on both sides, investors and advisors, are you noticing some kind of shift in the mindset among Gulf investors, especially in Saudi Arabia?
Okay, the last part you were saying, did you mention Gulf countries?
Yes, I like. Are you noticing some kind of shift in the mindset among Gulf countries or Saudi Arabia in specific in terms of investors? Do you think that evolution is coming there, and what's really driving?
Well, I mean, if you look at the FDI report, I think one of the beautiful things is that Saudi Arabia is not just in the Middle East, it's in the middle of everything. And even when you apply FDI contributions, we almost get a portion of equal split from all the continents in the world. um, US and North America contributes to roughly plus or minus 25%. Europe the same, Asia the same, and to many people's surprise, most of, if not more than 50% of the Gulf countries' foreign direct investment actually comes to Saudi Arabia. So we're almost, enjoying the equal distribution of foreign direct investments, where the world is actually contributing, and with no discount to our Gulf countries. I think Saudi Arabia, from a scale and from a proximity and geographic location, we are fortunate to have multiple competitive advantages that really position Saudi Arabia, I would say, number one in the whole Middle East and Africa. If you look at the reports, we are ahead of everyone. We're, I think, number three in foreign direct investments in the whole Middle East, and we're 17th globally. We're ease of doing business. Again, we're probably the third in the whole Middle East and Africa. And that includes South Africa, North Africa, and the GCC countries. So I think we're doing very well. I think Vision 2030 has done us a great uh, message to the world, and I think a lot of people know what Vision 2030. At least here in Saudi, if you talk to a taxi driver, he knows what Vision 2030 is, and I think that's been elevated through different events, whether the last visit by Trump or our FII events that are going around the globe, world trade events, and so and having someone like Taha, who's advocating for Saudi, and I truly admire his mindset. And he's ahead of the big guys and the small guys, because he made his move to Saudi early on, and he's now advocating for Saudi. And I can't speak better than him about what Saudi is for somebody from the outside. But I can reassure you that Saudi is home, and we'd like to welcome everyone home to Saudi, and give them that experience, and help them grow their businesses from Saudi to the world.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed, for sharing all of that information. Um, Mr. Mazen, just to follow up with you, talking about investment and building on to whatever Mr. Ahmed mentioned, your platform, like InDeal, is becoming very central to investment matchmaking. So, how do you think we're enabling real collaboration across the system?
Okay, good question. I joined Indeed just this year, and it's good to also share some background. Indeed is part of Modern. Modern is the Saudi Authority for Industrial Cities and Technology Zones. And Indeed mandates to enable industry ecosystem to grow. Part of that to enable export and also trade. Therefore, Indeed act as a multi-dimensional marketplace where we are helping demand and supply to talk and make direct businesses. Such basic service is very essential for players who are willing to join Saudi market. Having the visibility for local supplier and also potential buyer is very essential in their market study, and also have their initial business plan. For Indeed today, helping even in the later stage investor who especially invested in industrial or manufacturing, which is our core focus, will get benefit from such state-backed platform, or let's say state-owned platform, getting a lot of digital and facilitation in their day-to-day operation that go beyond sales to also financing and also government integration. Therefore, we try indeed to do all of that. It's something huge, but the good things being part of the government or government owned help us to work in very long term strategy where we are investing in such ecosystem initiative. Therefore, it's something evolving, and thankfully, we have this year big release. For we are also inviting people to go to a deal and approach me if they are need any support to allocate some team members to help them. But it's mainly for manufacturing and supply chain income.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Mazen. I'm sure there's a lot of growth and opportunities that's coming with Indeed across the ecosystem and for the community. Before we end this round, Taha, we've talked about Saudi welcoming global founders, businesses. So there's something that you talk a lot about, which is ecosystem building at FCI. So what do you think that actually looks like in Saudi, where the landscape is evolving at such speed?
Thanks for that question, Nazia. So, I mean, I guess your question is, what is ecosystem? I mean, I'll just go back into like maybe early 2015, 16. I mean, I think the ecosystem was way early then. The investor mindset was very different. You could go to any conference, and I think people were getting used to what an angel investment looks like. The VC world was very new, but I think it's picked up really fast. And I think the problem then was there was no secondary market, right? And I think like that was the problem that most investors were seeing, that you know there was little to zero secondary market. So how do you eh, how do you kind of create an ecosystem when it doesn't exist? So I think the government definitely has a lot to do with helping kind of facilitate the initial ecosystem for at least um, the startups, the early stage founders. And I think that is the credit has to go to them, right? And now you see that it's you have um, you have so many accelerators and firms and VCs and incubators coming into play. I mean, just to mention a few, you have um, Umar Al Shaban leading Al Garage, and then you have Code. You have so many different ones that I can go into, but um, they're doing absolutely fantastic work. But definitely, um, we have to appreciate that the government has been very hands-on in supporting the this initiative, and massive events like Leap. They have been the fourth. They have been not just locally, but they attract founders from all over the world to come in, and also the sectors that they're defining or bringing into the region are deep tech. It's emerging technology, so it's not basic software as a service technology, which you can find in most conferences. This is like real innovative technology at its core. So and for me in life, whenever I do business, I look for the depth of things, right? So when you look at things I call it fluff. So I think there's less of fluff and there's a lot of depth in these technologies that are coming to Saudi, and you'll meet some of the most innovative founders and scale ups. I think a lot of people that are very serious in their life are moving to Saudi. So you're getting a lot of the serious founders, serious business owners, serious investors, which creates a very uh, unique proposition for a lot of other people to visit, because those are the types of people you want to do business with, right? Um, so it really is becoming, I would say, um, uh, maybe the next valley in the next 15, 20 years. Um,
I want to, if I may, Taha, just build on this. I think ecosystem and I think the financing position and the incentives. I'm not speaking on behalf of the government, but I have had different companies where we invested, and these companies have received, I would like to call it free money because it's grants. You don't pay it back. And this is how supportive the ecosystem is. Also, there's soft loans, long-term soft loans with grace period. So the money bottleneck, and especially today with project finance and cost of finance, I think Saudi is not only the capital of everything else, but also the capital of investments, where the private sector is willingly keen on contributing in providing equity for these companies to situate in Saudi. So it's a lot to do with what is it that they are bringing into Saudi, but money is not scarce in Saudi Arabia, and I think we have. I think last year Saudi Arabia was the largest investor in innovation, led by Public Investment Fund, and more now with the private sector contribution. I think there's going to be a lot of appetite for investments that are ready to scale in Saudi. And I think depending on which stage these companies are in, they could qualify for incentives and finance, government soft loans, and grants for that matter. So I have many examples. I just don't want to mention names. Some of them are already publicly announced, and I know of two that I'm dealing with that have already received such, support from the government. So this is, happening, and this actually makes the whole value chain and the ecosystem truly comprehensive. I'll leave the floor for others to comment, if any.
Actually, I want to add just maybe one last comment. It's speaking about Vision 2030 and going back to it's like a startup methodology. By the way, Vision 2030 is not the end goal. It's just, I think, the start of the journey, and the journey is far from over. And I'd like to think of Vision 2030 as a startup, and everyone across the world and locally is a co founder in this. And we did not set it as end goals. It's enablers for social change, and this is what we aspire to have in the kingdom. And I would like to invite everyone to come and experience the new Saudi.
Thank you, all three of you, Taha, Mr. Ahmed, Mr. Fawad, for sharing all of that information. Mr. Fawad, continuing with you, you talk about since you have been helping within Saudi Arabia, you've helped several public-private partnerships. When we're talking about ecosystem, we talk about PPPs in Saudi. So, what do you think? What makes the PPP model in Saudi unique and different from international markets?
I think it touches points on everyone that spoke today in the panel. Just from financing, from talking about the ecosystem, and in regards to the partnerships that has been built to create new softwares and technologies. I think understanding the ecosystem of Saudi Arabia is deeply important. As Taha mentioned, it's not a couple of Zoom calls. It's you need to come and see on the ground and see actually the scale of the work that is happening. So embodying those visions create these strong partnerships where it's a win-win situation for all.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. Let's spotlight a little more on the ecosystem and Saudi's current landscape. Mr. Mazen, since you have experience with a lot of startups and founders, I'd like to know from you, what's a Saudi startup that the world needs to know about right now, and why?
Maybe there are no one answer, but from my experience and my, let's say, focus, I think one of key startup is Sella. If you hear about Sella is Saudi venture started early to solve a problem of online store. It's very similar to Shopify. I think Shopify is leader in West, but Seller is also Z doing the same. But Seller shows big traction over the last 10 years, and they helped a lot of stores. Today they have almost 60,000 stores, Saudi stores live. Therefore, I think the impact of venture or startup that's helped 60,000 small business or even medium business to be digital and selling online is something we all proud of. And also, it's by the way part of Saudi unicorn program. Therefore, I think Salah is the one I nominate for such audience to learn from and also track it, because last year they made very big round in Q1. Yes.
All right. Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. You've definitely shed some light on the global founders looking for a digital platform as well. You've made it feel more accessible. Mr. Ahmed, I'd like to ask you, we talked about everything, opportunities and growth in Saudi Arabia. But what friction points do you think are still existing and that need to be addressed when it comes to Vision 2030's ambition?
I think again, I think it's just time and timing. I wish we had more than 24 hours to turn things around. Um, it's. I mean, on a daily basis, I'm engaged with different ventures, and I find it hard because we work 24/7. And I still get calls at 1 o'clock in the morning because the U.S. wakes up at a different time, Japan wakes up at a different time, but there's definitely a lot of vested interest, and I think we have put our deadlines in the desert, and having a target to deliver the Olympics Games 27 and 28. Expo 2030, World Cup 2034. These are all things that keep us on our fingernails. And I think this brings a lot of opportunities across the sector. So I think we're only limited with time. And I think if we can do more, we will be more than happy to do more. But with a willing leadership, His Royal Highness has opened our eyes to the world. And a lot of people tell me, why do you guys know so much? And it's all because we were unblinded by Vision 2030. And we have a laser focus and a great leadership that also does not sleep. And we're committed to do the same.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. So, when you talk about founders who are looking to get noticed by investors or by the government or businesses looking to expand into the market, Ms. Taha, you would agree this is something that we might have also initially struggled with, was building relationships in Saudi, because we did see a clear cultural difference when it comes to the US or the global countries or the GCC and Saudi. So I want to know from you, what's one advice that you would like to give to the global founders and businesses for earning that trust and building that visibility in Saudi Arabia?
So honestly, I didn't personally struggle like with building relationships. I think for me it was um, I understand the culture. So for me it was obviously very different. Um, but what works is what's important is what I tell people again. If you're going in with a transactional mindset, you're not going to win, right? No one wants to work with someone who's just looking for a quick investment, who's in and out. If you're genuinely looking to build a company, build a long-term company with someone who, and you're, and so that's big. You cannot just walk in with a transactional mindset. Um, you have to be there. You have to also want to support the regional change. You can't just think about your North American or European operations. You have to change your company to match the culture there. You have to make it a win-win. And number three, you really have to, um, be likable. Saudi is not the same country it was maybe 15, 20 years ago. The kingdom has changed, and the people have options, right? So they will choose based on their terms. And I tell people all the time, if you think business is going to be on your terms, it's best that you don't come. Business will be on Saudi Arabia's term in today's world. And so the world has changed, and the sooner people understand that, the better it is for them, and the more successful they will be. I know I sound a little bit, uh, maybe in my
Yes,
speech, maybe I'm being too straightforward, but this is the truth. Business will not be on your terms. Business will first be what it does for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Does it support their vision? Does it support the people of Saudi Arabia? And then after that, we will look at what difference does it make on a global level, right? And if you start looking at it from that lens, then you will be more successful. And if you start looking at it from a long-term relationship basis, then you're good to go. So I meet founders, investors from all around the world. I mean, our company gets more than 1,500 inquiries, I would say, from a data perspective in coming to the region. Um, we choose to work with maybe 50 or 60 of them in a year. And I choose them based on their cultural adaptability, obviously their numbers, and then their emotional intelligence. So if they have high EQ, if I feel like they will do well in the relationships, then we take those contracts. Otherwise, we stay away because to us, my relationship with Mr. Ahmed, Dr. Fuad, Mr. Mazen is more important than anything. So I want to make sure that both sides are winning and both sides are understanding what's at stake. And more than anything, it's the money is it's there in the region, but we want to work with people who are the best at what they do and who are looking at a win-win from a relationship perspective first. So I hope I answered your question, and
yes.
maybe I was too straightforward, but I have to be,
No, I think it was a very
Taha, maybe to be politically a bit correct, we will say we launched a new culture product line, and we focus on culture first, huh?
Yeah, it's true. I think culture is very important, and everyone needs to understand that and respect it. And we're lucky that we get to work with such amazing investors and founders and scale ups from all around the world that adapt to the culture, that enjoy it. So it's the best hospitality you can ever get in your life. So I urge everyone to visit and experience the Saudi hospitality.
definitely. I think we all agree here in Saudi Arabia, it's just before transaction. So that is something I think everybody is following and working on. So we have some questions from our live audience over here, which I would like my speakers to address before we end the session. So you will see them on the screen over here. All right. This is Hamza Al Najr, Hazim Al Najr asking, what is the future of small and medium enterprises and their role in the economy? Mr. Fawad,
Okay.
would you like to answer that question?
I think Hazim is a good friend, so I'd keep maybe some of the panelists the pleasure of answering that question. But Hazim knows me very well. Being part of this ecosystem and building accelerators and incubators and being one of the top five in the region, it gives us a bit of an edge with helping these SMEs. Usually, we like to focus on two elements. Actually, not only being innovative and having a new vision that aligns with the Saudi vision of 2030, but also being very, I would say, perseverance where you actually you get the traction and you keep on moving and you don't take on no for an answer. So ending up We help a lot of SMEs grow. I think the number from SMEA Authority, the last report I read, was around 160 incubators and accelerators and co-working spaces across the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and that's a very large amount. And not mentioning the government initiatives and programs that are helping SMEs grow and on different scale of growth.
Thank you. I hope that answers Mr. Nazim's question.
I want Marcia, let me. I want.
Sorry,
Okay.
Mr. Masin, please go on. Yes.
Yes, I recently I made some post about something called GSP, which is Global Small Businesses, and I think in Saudi we have now the best time for SMB or medium businesses to grow. Recently all of us may be following the news about big players who's losing trust and losing the chance to continue gaining businesses from government, which really indicator of how behavior of buyer, especially government buyer and government procurement, is more to smaller and local providers, specifically consulting firms, which is a big business and big potential for SMB. Therefore, I think today, with the AI and the agentic AI and the potential of automation and adoption the tools, there are a huge space for small businesses to really gain and get better businesses. And consulting is one example. And I think also for services and also experience in general, all this is big area for SMB where they can go and move and get much better chance versus the global and traditional players in the market. This is my view, but I think my colleague also may add to that.
Thank you for sharing that. That was very insightful.
I just want to say maybe one last word here. I think the future of Saudi economy is in small and medium businesses. So that's another way of looking at it. And I think the growth is evident. There's numbers that I don't want to be quoted with, but I think last year we had more than 100 billion, and I'm not sure if it's dollars or Saudi riyals invested in small and medium businesses, but I know for a fact it's growing in double-digit growth, and I think the homeland for SMEs is in Saudi Arabia.
Right, and talking about investments and talking about new sectors, medium enterprises, I think one factor that we missed during our conversation was healthcare. The contribution of healthcare in Saudi Arabia's economy, and we have a question over here. It's quite long, but I think what they're trying to ask is, how does one break into the MENA healthcare market? So, please go ahead. Who would like to shed some light on this?
From my side, I can help him with a venture who's interested in localizing such device manufacturing. They already in medical manufacturing. For if you ask for who's the right question, approach me LinkedIn. I will link him and introduce him to those investors, and hopefully they can do some business with him.
Sure.
I will also urge him to apply through MISA. Ministry of Investment has a program especially for SMEs or innovative solutions or products that are built focused on new technology and deep tech that will help different industries grow. Early on in the conversation, I've talked about entrepreneurship license, and it's one of the programs that has been offered by MISA to help SMEs and FDI come from abroad and give them a testing period of around 2 to 3 years and helping them grow and pivot the product here and then basically look for investors afterwards.
I would like to echo Dr. Fuad's comment on that. And I had two instances where I was astonished, and this is facts, not just sharing information. We had a publicly listed company outside of Saudi Arabia getting licensed in less than 48 hours, and I give hats off to Ministry of Investment. Today, one of our companies that we have invested in has an entrepreneur who received an entrepreneurship status, and that also was done within 72 hours. So if you have the right documentation and you're prepared to come to Saudi, um, uh, don't worry about red tape. We have purple carpet for you.
Correct.
Right. Thank you. I think building on what you just answered, we have another question. What about the legal hurdles and high costs compared to the neighboring countries like Bahrain and UAE to set up a startup in KSA?
Actually, for the entrepreneurship license, it's pretty cheap compared worldwide or to establish business in the region. As Mr. Ahmed said, if you have the right proper documentation and paperwork abroad, and you want to enter the Saudi market as an SME, as an entrepreneurship license, it's really fast and quite cheap, to be honest.
Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
And it's an upfront cost. There's no hidden cost. So maybe the comparison was done. I've come across different costs of doing business, and I think Saudi scored very well on cost of doing business in general. So the cost aspect is competitive.
Right.
And just to add to this has been changing and becoming better every quarter, right? I think everyone can agree on this. Maybe 2 years ago versus now, every quarter, public policy is shifting more towards to support small to medium-sized enterprises. If anyone on the panel can agree or have a different opinion, but that's at least what we've seen in public policy.
Personally, I have experience. I have a co-founder who gets his license, entrepreneur license, within less than 72 hours. Okay, and that was 3 years ago. And even today, it's became easier. And even there are some incubator who's interested to join Saudi even without initial idea. For example, joining a garage, for example, and applying for a car will help you a chance to join let's say, incubator where you develop your idea and you enhance and enrich your business model with even a co-founder or potential team. Why before you apply to the certificate? And that was very easy. I know personally tens of colleagues who applied for that. Some of them was somehow a worker in Saudi, but they like to switch from being employee in Saudi to be a business owner, and that was very smooth for them. And successfully now they are a businessman who enjoying being investor in Saudi instead of being only employee in those businesses. And this is, by the way, big shift, as Taha mentioned. 10 years ago, this is impossible. But today, I think it's a huge difference. And the good things, there are a lot of let's say, onboarding consulting firm can help. And I am sure FCI is expert in this, and they can guide you.
Actually, I want to add to this. Taha and Ahmed mentioned red tape. Um Basically, in Saudi, being a co-founder of an incubator and accelerator here, and enabling change for SMEs, and for offering entrepreneurship license with MISA from abroad, and having partnerships and communication and building PPP with, for example, FCI, and being part of this conversation. I would say policymakers here in Saudi continue dismantling by quarter any red tape. And again, as we know, everyone knows, people don't invest in ideas, they invest in people. So Saudi Arabia is investing in human capital, and the regulatory shows that by dismantling any red tape available.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. We're actually also moving towards the end of the session. So I would like to ask all of you if there's anything that you would like to add in the session before we conclude. I think we have some questions. that have been addressed. There's just one last question if you'd like to answer. What is the role of Saudi women in Saudi Vision 2030?
Well, I wish we had
Sorry,
some
can you
women
repeat the
on
question?
the panel to answer this.
Can you repeat the question?
It is, what is the role of Saudi women in Saudi Vision 2030?
Actually, based on a couple of numbers, we've talked about women empowerment and the role of women in Saudi Arabia. The women in workforce, as I said, it's and you can quote me on this, and I've done my research. It's around 33.5% growth, and it keeps on growing. Women today are very leading the conversation, also alongside. Men and are helping building reforms, and we can see women actually heading the highest levels in the pyramid and enabling change in the human capital.
Definitely. All right, I think we're going to move towards the end of the session.
I guess just have one question that I want to ask the panel. Like overall, like this could be the last question. What are some sectors that you guys think that potentially everyone should be looking at, focusing on? Because sometimes the vision is so big that having some sort of focus it always allows for people to get to their goal better. So if you can name a few sectors that you think that potentially are seeing more growth than the others. This way, some of our audience can also start looking at that from an investment thesis perspective. So I would like to just ask that personally, and see what everyone's thesis is on that.
If I may take that on, Taha, because I did mention it in the beginning, and we actually did identification of all the sectors that we operate in by research, and these are, the key sectors that I think the kingdom is fully aligned with, and on, not for promotional purposes, but for the sake of the audience. I think anything in the green industrial innovation space that is key. Anything in the mobility space that is key. Anything in the tourism and entertainment space that's also key. And last but not least, I would say anything in the AI technology, fourth generation technology space from all sorts of angles is also key. So I think those are maybe the four key sectors, but I'll leave the floor for my colleagues to also share their views on that.
No, I will add to what Mr. Ahmed. Maybe most of area Ahmed mentioned is more about technology and the new trends, but also we should not forget the food industry. Food industry is a priority now. So for localizing food factories and food businesses is very essential. And I will give you some fact about that. 30% of new factories over the last 2 years is in the food. That's in Saudi. Therefore, this is a huge and it will continue as part of the national industrial strategy. Therefore, I encourage businessmen who already either have international businesses to come and localize those businesses. I mean, those products, which is very critical considering local content in Saudi. For government procurement is for sure is the huge and the best choice for any supply. And government procurement today is looking for local content and local provider. When we say local content, it means Saudi made, but that means it's 100% Saudi company. This is very important to consider by investor. Today, government and local content authority give a score for any Saudi-made product, regardless is it 100% or not. Therefore, you will have a chance to get government orders and government, procurement when you have a Saudi presence, a Saudi factory facility, and gradually you can work and increase the local content contribution of this product. For this is maybe more about manufacturing, but Mr. Ahmed highlights a valid point about the new trend and also the technology-driven businesses.
I think for me, from my answer, I think sustainability and quality of life is a goal for Saudi, and that involves all the sectors that the panelists discussed, and also would focus on all sectors such as construction, logistics, and building smart cities for tomorrow, and reducing the carbon footprint on the world is one of our ultimate goals. So if you are in these sectors, or you plan on building a sustainable and enhancing the quality of life of people, Arabia is a place to be.
All right, thank you, everybody. I think that answers Taha's question as well. I think this was, we're going to move towards the end of this session. So this was an extremely insightful conversation, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think our audience did as well. To all our listeners, thank you for joining in. Thank you for being a part of FCI Talks, Saudi Vision 2030. I would like to thank all our speakers, Mr. Fuad, Mr. Ahmed, Mr. Nazim, Mr. Taha, for sharing such relevant insights and growth perspectives today. If you'd like to plug into Saudi opportunity, explore delegation travel, or just build relationships on ground, you can reach out to us. If there's any speaker that you would specifically want to reach out to, we will facilitate you with that as well. And yeah, thank you for being part of the conversation, and we look forward to the next session next week.
Thank you,
Pleasure. Thank you.
Founders Club, and having us on this call. Um, Very much valued and appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Pa. Thank you, Mazia. Nice to be with
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
Hope to see everyone in Riyadh.
Soon,
Yeah.
I'm actually
waiting for
here,
you.
so if you want to meet up soon, huh? Yeah,
All
see you
right.
soon.
See
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam.